So our initial conclusion was that it's not a trivial exercise to measure software impact, because different projects potentially require different measures of their impact. There isn't necessarily one single. How do I go to the next page?
You can use this just left to right.
Okay.
Or that.
Okay. Right.
Right.
So there are different measures that may apply to different software projects and products, especially in science and arts. You can measure science in sort of, smashing bosons together or whatever, furthering the sum of human knowledge via the arts. It might be a bit harder to measure the general improvement in people's life and well-being by that. So we went through some potential metrics. There were more sort of traditional measures, such as measuring papers, grant income, perhaps, that's been based on having a particular software product available. But also a whole series of broader measures, so there's impacts on quality of life, which has been picked out in some European projects. Reduction in carbon footprint, perhaps some access grid software, could be quite an important one. You might also measure, rather than necessarily number of downloads or number of users, but market penetration. But that's not necessarily easy to track. If you've got a piece of software that can be downloaded in an open source way, it may be very hard to track who has used that, what portion of the user community has used that. So while it'd be useful to be able to measure that, how to measure that is not necessarily entirely obvious. And consumer satisfaction is an important one. So that's a measure of not only the quality of the software, but the usability of the software and the whole group of things around that. But the important thing is which of those do research councils want? Does research councils going to fund these things? What of that set of things is useful to a research council to get that reported back? That has some thoughts on what to do when things end, or at significant inflection points in projects. So for software, when a software project ends or meets a major milestone, you may want to do case studies which look at how that has been deployed. But also, when a research project that has used software, or in fact it all ends, it would be useful to work out what software has been used by that project to then be able to report back. And that includes not only the headline piece of software, but also capturing the dependencies that underlie that, so that sort of invisible middleware gets accounted for somewhere in that process, even if it's not explicit in those headline items. It would be useful then if software developers then get to query this. So while they may hear about on the grapevine or via looking through papers that their software has been used by a particular project, if it's captured, then potentially then query a database, find out who has used it in a significant way, and then go and use that to develop their case studies, to develop their own metrics and impact information. And that could also then feed back into research councils, because then if someone comes on with another similar project, a piece of software perhaps could come as a recommendation as part of that. So that would then encourage reuse. And our final request is one to the people at the front, which is to allow us a clearinghouse for developing best practices.